Today we will be reviewing the latest model in an ongoing flood of Xiaomi phones. It is a light variant of the Mi 9, a device which has showed great performance and received praise for everyone in the first half of 2019. The Mi 9 Lite is here to ride the good wave that Mi 9 has created and bring some extra quality to its price range. But isn't Xiaomi currently in a bit of an awkward position with their entire phone lineup? Not only is their offer quite complicated, but now we have a lot of people wondering which phone is better, Redmi Note 8 Pro or Mi 9 Lite. What do you get with one model and what does the other one offer? Is the price difference worth it? Now, to further explain Xiaomi's philosophy behind these two phones, Mi 9 Lite is made by cutting out some of the features and specs from the more powerful models, while on the other hand, the Redmi Note 8 Pro is designed to provide something new to the low-end models. By doing this, Xiaomi put their Mi 9 Lite in a strange position, right above the Note 8 Pro and right below the Mi 9T model, and it seems they are trying to have a device in every possible price range. Both phones are available in 6 64GB and 6 128GB combinations of memory and storage. In both versions, the Note 8 Pro is noticeably cheaper, at least within the class we're talking about. The Mi 9 Lite in 6 64GB variant we had on our test costs around $260, while the 6 128GB version costs about $275. That being said, Redmi Note 8 Pro costs around $235 for the 6 64GB version and $255 for the 6 128GB variant. So the difference is clear, with the Mi 9 Lite being more expensive than the Note 8 Pro. But the biggest question is it worth the difference and how much can the Mi 9 Lite really do? The phone we got on our test is the standard version, which Xiaomi calls the Onyx Gray color, and it's a typical dark variant to the phone that, like with all the other models, looks much more attractive when in different color. In the box we got the 18-watt charger as well as a silicone dark case, much like the phone itself. Of course, there's also a USB-C cable for charging and communication with your PC. The Xiaomi Mi 9 Lite looks decent, but it also doesn't stand out as anything special, at least in the aforementioned gray-black version we had on our test. The layout itself is rather standard, something we've seen so many times this year with a design that everyone is sticking to right now. The edges are neither particularly thin nor overly thick, with a mild teardrop cutout at the top, while on the right we can find a power button as well as a volume rocker. We think that they could have been done a little better because we noticed that these buttons are quite thin and do not provide a distinct feedback, although they're very good enough for comfortable use. At the back, we have the camera module in the upper corner, while the fingerprint scanner is located below the screen. It uses Corning Gorilla Glass 5 protection, which will make the phone feel like it belongs in the upper class, as well as provide some real protection against mechanical shock. It will also make the phone look rather slippery, but since most of the users will certainly be using a silicone case from the pack, we do not expect anything to bother them about it. Xiaomi as a company has a reputation for providing the strongest possible hardware for the money invested. However, the Mi 9 Lite is not such a phone. The Mi 9 Lite uses a 10nm Snapdragon 710 chipset. This automatically means that Mi 9 Lite is just below the Mi 9 SE phone that is powered by the Snapdragon 712, which is a slightly more modern version of the chipset. The processor has 8 cores clocked at up to 2.2 GHz with the 2 fast Cryo 360 Gold cores at 2.2 GHz and 6 slower Cryo 360 Silver cores at up to 1.7 GHz, and the GPU is Adreno 616. In terms of storage and memory, there are two combinations that we mentioned in the introduction, but the model we got comes with 64GB of storage and 6GB of RAM. We also have to mention that although Mi 9 Lite is a dual SIM phone, the other slot is hybrid, so you have to choose whether to put another SIM card or a micro SD card in order to expand the storage. In terms of performance, we have to say that it's quite decent for the mid-range category, and while not the best possible, you will still get your money's worth. The phone runs the Android 9 Pie operating system with MIUI 10 user interface, and here we came across our first problem, which manifested itself while we were reviewing the phone. Although there is an update to a newer version, the Mi 9 Lite failed to do an update for us, and we were stuck with the software version that the phone came with. Having tested various other interfaces by Chinese companies, we also think that MIUI is not the best out there. In fact, the spot in our opinion belongs to OnePlus Oxygen OS. We are aware though that a lot of users are used to Xiaomi's offering, but we would still like to see it refreshed, which will happen eventually with the upgrade to Android 10 or MIUI 11. As far as the security options that the Mi 9 Lite comes with, there's an optical fingerprint scanner that is located below the screen and works mediocre at best. The performance could be better, but we found that this type of scanner behaves similarly even on the more expensive mobile phones. On the other hand, we were extremely pleased with the facial recognition and very pleasantly surprised with its performance, as it was able to work extremely fast even in low light conditions. We are honestly pleasantly surprised at how the system works in dark environment, even surpassing our experience with more expensive phones that have far more sophisticated recognition mechanism, at least on paper, and it's safe to say that face recognition unlocking works really great on the Mi 9 Lite phone. The 6.4-inch screen may seem huge on paper, but by today's standards it's a mid-sized phone that easily fits in one hand. This is due to the curved edges, which make the phone generally very slippery. The good news for the users is that it comes with a Super AMOLED display with a 19.5:9 body ratio. The resolution of the screen is 2340 x 1080 pixels, and it offers a large variety of options. There's also the always-on option for displaying information when the screen is off, with the same design that has been praised throughout the Mi 9 series. In general, the screen is quite well lit, and the fact that it supports up to 600 nits of brightness as well as the HDR standard really shows that Xiaomi is slightly ahead of its competitors in the middle class. The sound on this phone is average, but honestly, we didn't expect much in this price category. There's only one speaker located at the bottom of the phone, and also a 3.5mm connector is present, which is worth noting since some models of the Mi 9 family did not have this connector. Finally, an FM radio is also supported. The battery life is one of the things where Mi 9 Lite simply shines. It will be very realistic to reach up to 2 days of use even for more demanding users with its 4030 mAh battery. The phone charges via 18-watt charger which connects to a USB-C port. During our tests, we were playing 10 hours of YouTube video at a screen brightness fixed to 50% and the phone was left with 48% battery power, which places it among the leading models when it comes to battery. Of course, the battery life itself depends a lot on how you use it, but we are convinced that even with heavy use, more demanding users will be ending their day with 30% battery. Next up are the cameras, which are quite often a strong point of Xiaomi devices. The camera software is decent and well designed, and we have already seen it many times on various phones from this company. We assume that many of you will be asking if Gcam works on this particular model. We didn't find a version specifically tailored for this phone during our testing, but that's why we have successfully installed the version for the Mi 9 SE, which works fine on the Mi 9 Lite model as well, so you can use it without any problems. The Mi 9 Lite uses 3 camera sensors. The main camera is a well-known IMX586 sensor made by Sony. This is a 48 megapixel sensor with an aperture of f1.8, phase detection autofocus, and a pixel size of 0.8 micrometers. It supports quad-Bayer technology, which by default produces 12 megapixel images via 4-in-1 pixel binding technology. Of course, it is possible to shoot the original 48 megapixel photos, but keep in mind that there is no assistance while using this mode, so there wasn't any point of using it, especially since the photos were much larger but not better than the standard ones. Unlike the Mi 9 SE, the Mi 9 Lite does not have a telephoto sensor, but uses a low-resolution 8 megapixel ultra-wide sensor. Basically, it's there to handle some wide shots, but you shouldn't use it as a default sensor when you want to take a photo. Its aperture is f2.2 and does not have more advanced assistance. Lastly, there is a 2 megapixel depth sensor. It is also worth mentioning that none of the sensors have optical stabilization. The dynamic range of the main camera is quite good, and it very quickly and easily adapts to various shooting conditions. Combined with a very faithful color reproduction and extremely sharp and detailed photos is enough to conclude that Mi 9 Lite is one of the better video recording devices in this class. But to be honest, this is the case with all phones using the IMX586 sensor, which was initially reserved for only the best phones at the beginning of 2019, and now it's available even for the more affordable models. The phone offers 2x digital zoom, and honestly, we would hardly call it usable. The 8 megapixel camera shoots very decently, but nothing more than that, because it simply has its own limitations, one of which is the extremely low resolution. Blurring the background in portrait mode works very well, and we would say that Xiaomi has mastered the software implementation of this effect. Nighttime shooting is very good. Definitely better than other Xiaomi phones that use the new 64 megapixel Samsung sensors, which could easily be due to the software optimization. It works fairly quick and it's able to deliver well-balanced photography. Balanced in a sense that it does not exaggerate the image to look unrealistic, but still draws a lot of detail from the dark conditions. Of course, this only applies to the main sensor, all other prove to be quite unusable. The 32 megapixel selfie camera is something we've seen in many times before, even in this class. It is a very good solution with quite decent shots, especially the selfies with bokeh background blur effect. Although there is no classic depth sensors, the detection is pretty good. Finally, video recording is quite decent with this camera. We were pleasantly surprised that even 4K shooting and 1080p electronic stabilization is very good. We would praise the level of details and sharpness of the shots in all modes. Simple, very usable for every day, especially compared to competitors in the class. We come to the conclusion and there is still a big dilemma. Is this phone worth the money? When observed on its own, it's certainly worth it, since the Mi 9 Lite is a well-rounded phone. However, in this ruthless market, the question is whether customers will opt for it. Within the Xiaomi range, and that opinion has not changed at all from the beginning, is that Mi 9 Lite is feeling the pressure from below by a cheaper Redmi Note 8 Pro model and from above by a Mi 9T phone, while being hit from the side by the slightly smaller and more compact Mi 9 SE. Now, imagine getting out of the box and realizing that Galaxy A50, A70, various Huawei and Honor phones, as well as many other rivals, can be taken for the same or even less money. Things get much more complicated. All in all, this is a good phone, which again we say has the biggest competition coming from its own company's models. Thank you once again for watching yet another Bench House review, this time featuring the Xiaomi Mi 9 Lite. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more reviews and also leave us a comment and like below the video.